Hey everyone, welcome to our small footprint. My name is Nyssa. If you're new here, we are a large family living off-grid in Australia. It is Monday, so I've just done the grocery shop Friday, Saturday. This video will come out after all the grocery videos. So we need to get started on some of the stuff that needs to be processed quickly. I should have started yesterday and I didn't because I was tired, basically. So I'm going to get started today. Now I've been discussing about mics and stuff. I did find my little mic mini that has the magnetic thing so that I can move where I put it. We'll see if that helps with the breathing sounds. And, I know most of you aren't concerned, but because things like that get pointed out to me, it means that when I'm editing, it's all I can hear. And then I over edit because it's all I can hear. And, so if I can alleviate it, then all to the better. So first thing first, I bought the big 4 kilo pre-minced beef packs. So we need to get the bolognese done and sorted so it can be frozen with that mince. Because that mince, when you buy beef that is pre-minced, you're supposed to use it within sort of 24, 48 hours of purchasing it, because when you mince a beef, it has more surface area for bacteria and things like that. So it's in the bottom of my chest fridge. It's perfectly fine there for a few days, but I want to get it done anyway because it's Monday. I have to go back to work on Wednesday, so I want to get this done now and sorted so that I can get that out of the way, because we use a lot of the fresh veggies for that too. So as I'm doing it, I'll use the fresh veggies and then I'll try and process some of the excess of them at the same time, sort of thing. So we'll see how we go. So my bolognese, I've made it plenty of times on here, but we'll walk through bits and pieces of it again because that's what I do. And we get new viewers and everyone seems to enjoy just the process of me talking it through. And I think part of that is that each of these meals, even if I make them every time I shop, are adapted slightly to what's available at the time. And I think that's part of the appeal of the way I cook, is the ability to adapt the stuff to suit what I can get seasonally or what I have available or whatever else. So we have plenty of carrots, zucchini, heaps of celery, plenty of onions. I've still got plenty of garlic. So we'll use those as our base for the bolognese. Now, I'm going to have 8 kilos of mince. I'm wondering whether I actually turn some of that into the French onion meatballs, because we actually really enjoy those. And I haven't had any of those in the freezer for a while. And I have that loaf of bread, that sun-dried tomato loaf of bread that didn't work out quite right. It was edible, but it was very stodgy. So what I did was I cut it into chunks and I turned it into breadcrumbs. And that would be really nice in the French onion meatballs, I reckon. So maybe I will put some of that mince aside to make some meatballs as well. So maybe like half one, maybe 2 kilos of mince, I'll make meatballs, and then I'll use the other 6 kilos in the bolognese. But then I have to decide what I'm going to add as the other. So do I want to add some red lentils, which are always good. They're a protein boost. I do like the texture of pearl barley, but pearl barley is a carb, so it just depends on what preference you want to put in there. Sometimes I just put both in because I like the texture of it. I love the nutty flavour that the pearl barley gives. But if I'm going to use red lentils, I need to give them a soak or a quick boil before I use them, because they don't break down very well in a heavy tomato-based liquid. So they take forever to get soft in a bolognese. So I always try and soak them or give them a boil first, just to start that process, get them to absorb some of that water before it goes into the bolognese. It also helps too, because otherwise it absorbs a lot of the liquid in the bolognese and I'm juggling liquid levels. So I might do both like normal. I'm going to get my really big stock pot out and make a really big batch. What I tend to do is I make it fairly thick because I can a pasta sauce, and that canned pasta sauce is full of vegetables and tomatoes as well. I freeze the bolognese in 1.2 kilo lots of that really thick sauce, and then when I'm heating it, I use a litre jar of that pasta sauce or more if needed to thin it out, and then it's the perfect sort of amount for us as a family. So yeah, we'll wing it as usual and we'll go through. So I need to get all my veggies together, get my pot out, and yeah, I might put those red lentils on to soak. So I've got 2 of these 1 kilo bags of red lentils in the cupboard. Once we have the kitchen organised a bit more, I will carry more of these, but at the moment I don't have enough room to put buckets and stuff, so I only buy these minimally because I don't always use them heavily. So I'm going to put 1 kilo of the red lentils in the beef as well. They expand to a bit more than 1 kilo, obviously. And then I've got 2 bags of the pearl barley as well. These are just 500 gram bags. I'm just going to put 1 bag in because I'm going to keep the other bag in case I want to do a beef and barley soup or something over the winter, over the next few weeks because it's winter. So I got 500 grams of pearl barley, 1 kilo of lentils. I did discover when I was at Costco that Costco sells the big bags of lentils, and I hadn't realised, and they work out cheaper than these. So I will do that next time. Though I don't know if they're Australian. Not sure. Anyway, all I'm going to do is I'm going to boil the kettle. I'm going to put these in a pot with boiling water and just let them sit, and then I'll rinse them and put them to the bolognese later. Neither of them are particularly long cooking times required, but I do just find that adding them to a tomato-based liquid, they do not cook anywhere near as well as if it was added to a soup-based liquid or whatever. So I'm just going to stick these into colander, give them a quick rinse, pick through them, put them in boiling water, and leave them until I'm ready to use them. And then that way they will just get a head start. All right, so they're on to come to a boil. Now, in the meantime, let's get a start. So I've got a whole celery here because I got like 8 or 9 bunches in a clearance box. I've got a dozen carrots. I got half a dozen or so onions. This was the last of the onions from last month's batch, so I can grab a few out of the new bag as well, but that was the last from last month, and a dozen or so zucchini. We will start there, and I just use my Thermomix to mince it all up, all into a uniform minced vegetable sort of structure, and then I fry it all off. So that's where we're going to start, is I'm just going to top and tail my carrots, which really probably isn't even necessary because I'm mincing them and no one would know the difference. And then mincing them up, a mix of hard and soft vegetables in the same batches in the Thermomix tends to make it mince a little bit more uniformly. But sometimes it doesn't matter. I get a little overzealous, I put too much in and I have to pull chunks out and re-mix them. It just really, again, just topping and tailing. All these scraps go to the animals, so I'm generous with the scraps because the animals really enjoy them too. Throw it all in. Onions are the same, top and tail. They obviously don't go to the animals because we don't do alliums to the animals other than a bit of garlic sometimes to help the chickens, but generally speaking they won't, even if you gave them the onion, they won't eat it anyway. Onion as well, we just turn it on and we just do speed 5. Sometimes we run up to higher speeds if need be, but we just on the Thermomix we just do speed 5 to start with. And that was 5 seconds. And we're at a diced texture, but not very small. So generally speaking, I go smaller than this just because it cooks down quicker. Depending on how long I'm going to cook my bolognese for. So generally speaking, I want it a finer mince than that. So all I do is I shuffle pieces around a bit, sometimes bump the speed up. And we've got a mostly minced texture with a few bits of, and as I said, occasionally we get chunks that I just pull out and add back into the next batch, but we've got a mostly minced texture. So all I do is I just do that on repeat for all the vegetables and get them all in the pot. All right, so we've got a whole bunch of celery, barring all the leafy bits because I really like those for stock. We've got about a dozen carrots, a dozen zucchinis, 8 or 9 onions, half a kilo of bacon, and a Thermomix jug full of mushroom, as well as about a dozen garlic cloves. So that is my veggie base, and it's about a third of the pot. It will cook down a little bit, but there's that. So I'm going to sweat some liquid out of this. Then I'm going to add the tomato paste in and toast that off a little bit. So I'll add a whole jar of tomato paste in here, toast it off with the veggies. Then I will add the mince, and my barley and lentils have soaked, so they will go in as well. And then we'll start adding liquid. So I'll bring you back, but for the moment, I've just got all the veggies in here. I'm just going to cook off a bit of the liquid from the celery and stuff. Cook that down just a little bit, and then we will add the next step to it. Added all the lentils and everything to the vegetables. I'm just cooking them off a little bit. Then I'm going to add the mince. Now I went looking through all the stuff from Mum's place because I'm sure that there was one of those little, the slap chopper type things. I can't find it, but I did find she did have a Thermomix Quick Chef, which these are quite an expensive item, and because Australia doesn't have Thermomix, did I say Thermomix? Tupperware Quick Chef. Because Australia doesn't have Tupperware anymore, they're not easy to get, and I thought I'd give it a go. So this was celery, and this is what I'm looking for. So I'm looking to, what I want to do is freeze some mirepoix. I don't want it minced. If I use the Thermomix, it's really hard to get that texture of diced without being pureed, and I really want some diced stuff. So I thought I'd test this out, and that worked really well with the celery. So it's going to be small batches over and over again, but it only takes half a dozen twists. So I think this will work to get that sort of uniform looking dices. A slap chopper would be quicker, but if I brought it home from Mum's, I can't figure out where it is because I haven't unpacked a whole bunch of stuff, because until the kitchen is sorted, I just don't have anywhere to put it. So this will work for now though, I think, and I'll process a couple of bunches of celery into these dices and I'll flash freeze them. I could dehydrate some, but it's really overcast and it's just annoying that the weather is the way it is at the moment. But also the dehydrator doesn't have a power point where it's sitting at the moment, so I would have to move it to be able to use it, and I think I've got enough room in the freezer at the moment. I'm just going to freeze it. So this is like 3 ribs of celery. And then the lid just goes on, so the blade's in there, lid goes on, handle goes on, and then it took me a little bit to get it started. That might be a bit too much. Might have overloaded a little bit. This is going to be the testing of it. There you go, look, it's pretty neat dice, and that wasn't too bad. That was a bit of hard yakka to get started, so I'll probably only put 2 ribs in at a time. But while I'm sitting here waiting for the other stuff to cook anyway, it's not that big a hardship, is it? So all I did was trimmed the bits that I want to use for stock off, cut it into some smallish pieces so it wouldn't get jammed. Like this. I don't even know, I didn't even count the ribs then that I used. I just used it, so threw that in, lid on. There we go, yeah, that's pretty cool. So that was like two lots made one whole bunch, other than I just introduced Kavik to peanut butter on celery sticks. So we did just eat a rib with peanut butter. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Still quicker than hand dicing, and that's the goal. So I will do that with probably 4 or 5 bunches, and then leave one to use fresh. And get that, and we'll freeze that and use it as mirepoix. So all these veggies and everything are almost dry, so I just have to get the mince out for that. So I'm just going to keep going while I'm waiting. All right, I ended up putting 5.5 kilos of beef in here and 2.5 kilos aside for those meatballs. It just seems to be a good quantity because I still have to put liquid in here. So this is still going to cook down a little bit, but to fit enough liquid in here as well. As I said, I make it a thick bolognese because we add more liquid when we heat it, which I find works really well, especially if we quick defrost it because we've been slack with pulling meals out. And so we have bolognese as a quick meal. So yeah, I'm going to just get this mince broken up in here with all the lentils, the barley, the vegetables and everything else. And this is our meat, sort of whatever you want to call it, mix for the bolognese. So just getting this all mixed in. It's hard work. My arms are killing me already. Once the mince is cooked off a little bit, it separates easier though, and it's easier to stir. But until then, we just need to help it along by breaking it up a little bit and making sure nothing sticks to the bottom, which is where this great big paddle comes in handy, which came from a viewer from Amazon. May have been Susan who sent it to me. Susan has sent me some absolutely wonderful things over the years that I didn't even know I needed until I got them. So yeah, we're just going to cook this mince off, and I'm just going to keep on dicing vegetables in the meantime while I'm having to stand here and watch it anyway. Alright, because the pot's so full, we need to start distributing the heat somewhat because we're getting some sticking on the bottom. So we're going to start adding liquid. So the first thing I'm going to add is 4 of these 800 gram tins of chopped tomatoes. I think I just cut myself on the tin. It's silly. I really like how rich these tomatoes are. They seem to have a lower water content, these tins, than the generic brand ones that I was buying from Aldi. So we're going to introduce this liquid in the hopes of getting some better heat distribution and less sticking on the bottom. And I'm going to add passata as well. So let's just scrape all the fond off the bottom. Because if it, at the moment it's just sticking, but if we let it stick too much, then I don't know if this mic's going to be, if I'm going to play this back and figure out that I've been knocking this mic the whole time. Anyway, at the moment it's just sticking, but if we let it continue to cook to the bottom, it'll burn, and then you won't be able to pull it up. At the moment it's just stuck, it's not burnt. But yeah, so that was the first 4 tins, and as you can see, it hasn't added much in the way of actual liquid at all, though as it simmers the liquid comes to the top. But I am going to add passata now, and we may end up with a very full pot. So I got 4 jars of passata to start with, and each one I will add a bit of water to get the last of it out as well. So we will add a bit of water with each jar as well. But I do have plenty more passata if needed as well. So I'll get these in. I'll put a couple inches of water in each one to shake it up and get the rest out. Then we'll stir it up and we will assess again. Alright, so that's about 1/3 of a jar of water as well as the full jar of passata, and now we just need to very carefully let it settle into all the gaps without tipping it over the edges of our pot. Now, I do have a pot that's even bigger than this, but I don't like to use it on the gas because when you've got tall pots with only limited width at the bottom, oh, splash, everything burns on the bottom because it's trying to heat all the way through the pan and it can't. So, actually, I'm going to turn this down a little bit at the moment until we get all of this scraped off the bottom and all this liquid. The problem is that it's windy today, and the lower I have the gas burner, the more likely it is that it'll blow out in the wind. So anyway, we may end up having to split this into 2 pots because we're going to need more liquid than this. So for the moment, that has done what I needed it to do though. It has deglazed the pan basically. I've turned it down. And let's let that simmer for a little bit. And then I'll reassess. Right, it's starting to simmer, so I am going to add some of the flavours that I always add. We've got balsamic vinegar. I use this instead of using a wine. So it's like a red wine alternative. Sort of that full-bodied acidic flavour. I find it works quite well because I don't have wine in the house in general. I don't mind a glass of wine every now and again, but it's a very much an every now and again thing. So I just don't have it easily accessible. So that's the end of that bottle. I do have another bottle though. But that's balsamic. The other thing I add is the homemade Worcestershire sauce. And again, a really good glug of that. So we're adding those deeper flavours to the bolognese. We don't want to be adding too much more liquid, mind you. But we will mix that through. We will probably add a little bit of bouillon to give it the salty umami from that to help balance things out. And we will probably add about half a cup of sugar to help with the acidity as well. So we're introducing acidity because we want those top notes, but we also don't want it to like make you feel pinched. So I like to add a little bit of sugar, which sort of balances that acidity a little bit and makes it pleasant. Now we have lots of sweetness in here because remember there's like a dozen carrots and all sorts of things in here. So we've got lots of sweetness from that. So it doesn't need much. It's just that tiny little balancing point of adding that bit of sweetness to it. Other than that, sometimes I add a little bit of molasses to give it a deeper, sweeter flavour. But I'm just going to have to taste it and test. So for the moment, it's just coming up to a simmer. So I'm just going to let those 2 flavours meld. And yeah, this is basically our bolognese. I can't remember what size pot this is. 17 litres maybe. So yeah, I'm still just dicing up the other veggies while I have to supervise it. I haven't had lunch yet, mind you. It's 1:10. I should do that. I haven't had breakfast either. I should do that. But yeah, for the moment, this is where we're at. All right, so the Tupperware spinner worked really well with the celery. It did not work with the carrot. The carrot was just too hard, though it could be partly just that I wasn't strong enough to do it. I tried to find a happy medium with the Thermomix to get it diced. It wasn't going to work. It ended up minced. So what I did was I minced about half of it and then I hand diced the rest of it. So we've got a good even spread of diced and minced in there. The chopper worked fine for the onion though. So I've got the 3 bowls here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mix even amounts in this bowl here, and then I'm going to use the super cube and generic ones to put it in. I'm actually going to use 2 of the celery and 1 each of the carrot and onion, and just blend that together, and then we'll fill these super cubes. I was going to try and like flash freeze it flat, but it just takes up too much room and time. I'm better off, I'm going to use a significant amount. These are 1 cup ones, so 1 cup of MILLMERRAN, probably very easy to use in any recipe, if not 2 of them. So I'm just going to press them lightly into the molds, and I'm just going to fill as many as it takes, freeze them, and then pop them out into a labelled bag. I have been looking at, has anyone got any recommendations for the silicone freezer bags? I did have some a while ago and I didn't like them at all. But for things like these, where it's already frozen and it's going into a bag for storage, and then you're putting the same thing back in it kind of thing, the silicone ones would work really well. So if anyone has a brand that they specifically like of those, let me know. But yeah, I'm just going to keep going through and fill as many of these as I can with all of this mix. And it's 20 plus 3. I'm probably not going to do much else today. I will do that other half of the beef into meatballs tomorrow morning. And we'll eat bolognese for dinner. And yeah, so I'm just going to keep going. Alrighty, so it is now Tuesday morning. So the bolognese got chilled overnight, so I'm going to bag that up now. It's always easier to bag up when it's cold than when it's hot. It's more evenly distributed, but also we do it in Ziploc bags. So, because we need something flat to go into the freezer, so it's much easier to handle when it's cold. So that's been chilled overnight. I'm going to do that. But first I'm going to put a Dutch baby in the oven. We have plenty of eggs at the moment, so we will do a Dutch baby for breakfast, and that can go in the oven while I'm doing the bolognese. Usual big chunk of butter or ghee into the oven to preheat the pan. Alrighty, as per normal and the website, 18 eggs, it's 600 grams of milk of choice. I use a tin of coconut cream plus a bit of water and the 350 grams of flour, and that's it. All blended up. I do 20 seconds on speed 5, scrape it down, do another 10 seconds, and it is done. So now I just need to pour this into the piping hot pan and we'll be done. So that's Dutch babies again as per normal, and now I'm gonna get this in, get this tied in and sorted for the bolognese. Alright, so this is what we do with the bolognese. We've tried a lot of different methods. We've tried containers, we've tried all sorts of things, but realistically with the amount that we make, Ziploc bags are the most efficient way of storing. These Ziploc bags cannot be reused though. You can never get the smell, colour, whatever out of them, and they quite often get torn when you're getting the bolognese out. So the ones that are used for bolognese do not get reused, unlike using them for other things, but cleaning them is just too hard. Silicone bags I'm looking at for a few different uses. I still wouldn't use them for this, and maybe if we had a dishwasher it would be different, but we don't. So yeah, this is what we do with the bolognese. We chill it overnight and then we grab our Ziploc bags. We've got a bowl to help stand up on scales, and then we just put 1.2 to 1.5 into each bag, and then that is enough to be usable for a variety of different things. Like you could use it for just straight up bolognese, you could use it for a pasta bake, you could use it for lasagna, anything like that. If you don't want to make a fresh batch, you've already got it pre-made in the freezer ready to go. And then all I do is half seal, flatten the bag out towards the top like that, get all the air out like that, and then just finish zipping it up and we flatten it out, and we put all these on a baking tray initially to start with so that they freeze flat, and then after that we stack them vertically in the freezer, and that seems to be the best way to store the bolognese. So I'm just going to keep going and see how much I get. Ended up with about I think it's 13 bags. Each one has around about the 1.4 kilos in it, because that just happened to be 6 big scoops. So we've got 14 different bolognese meals there, and as I said, they can be turned into lasagna, pasta bake, straight bolognese, can be used to make loaded baked potatoes, can be used to add beans and stuff to make toppings for nachos, anything that we want to use them for. So this is just a really good base, thick tomato based veggie mince thing that we can use straight out of the freezer. And because I do it these nice and flat like this, they defrost really quickly too. So I'm going to get them in the freezer. I will put them onto 2 trays because they won't freeze very well this thick. But we will get them in the freezer to freeze flat, and then I will stack them, and that's one less thing that I have to worry about for the moment. The Dutch baby needs a bit longer. We've got a few pears here that had some bruises on them that the boys won't eat with the bruises. Like, I can cut the bruises off and they'll eat them, but I have to go the effort of cutting the bruises off, and I don't always get there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dice this up really nice and small, stick it with some sugar in a pan, and just quickly stew a few pears, and we'll have them on the Dutch baby rather than opening a jar of something else because we've got these here and they need to be used. And there's nothing wrong with them. They've just got a few bits because these were out of the scrap boxes. That if the skin gets holes in it, it tends to go yuck. So I'm just gonna quickly stew these up to have with it. We also had some of these little oranges in the clearance boxes, and they're quite tart, so I'm going to squeeze this over the pear and sugar to make that little bit of sauce up and get that little bit of brightness in there, but also using up these oranges that the kids are eating, but they are pretty sour. And we're just going to cook those down, and then we'll serve them over the Dutch baby. Yes, you can stir it, mate. Today's Dutch baby, nice and impressive. A little brown around the edges because I was waiting for the pear to be done, but the pear is done as well. So we've got a nice thick, jammy pear mix. So we're going to have that over our Dutch babies for breakfast today, or brunch. It's 10 o'clock, so you know. And then I'll move on. I'll probably have to do the meatballs next. Custardy Dutch baby, a little bit of jam, and then just a little bit of the pear, slight drizzle of maple, and that's our sweet and somewhat decadent breakfast for today. All right, so sidetracked as per usual. It's 2:30. It looks like it could rain, so we just went and did some waterproof taping to Mum's roof because we've had a few leak points, so we're figuring out where those leak points are. So meatballs need to be done. 2.5 kilos of mince. I've got about half a dozen eggs here. I just cracked a few in a bowl that I'm going to add to that. We're going to add the French onion soup mix, so I need that, but we also want some pureed onion, which I do in the Thermomix. So I'm just going to quickly, probably might do 2 onions worth. We're going to puree them up in the Thermomix. So I'll just do that. All right, 2 big onions at speed 5 for about, I don't know, 12, 13 seconds. And we've got a really fine minced / pureed onion mix with lots of liquid. We are going to then, we're going to then add our breadcrumbs. Now I have these breadcrumbs that are from the homemade artisan bread that had sun-dried tomatoes and cheese in it. These will be amazing in this because they're really light and fluffy, big chunks of breadcrumbs, but also because all I can smell when I open it is the sun-dried tomato cheese. So let's start with 2 big cups of this. I'll probably need a third, but we'll start with 2 cups. And I'm going to mix that through the onion. I'm also going to just put a dash of cream in there. Normally I would use coconut cream, but I don't want to open a whole tin for that. And the kids are doing dairy all right at the moment, so we can just use that. So that's going to hydrate those breadcrumbs. So we're just going to leave that for a minute. Now we need to put the French onion seasoning here, which I made in the last video. I'll try and remember to put that up in the cards. And there's a mix of onion powder, onion flakes, beef stock, paprika, all those sorts of things. It's basically a mimic of the French onion soup mix that you can buy in the grocery store in the little sachets. Now each sachet is about 35 grams, and the meatball recipe that I originally used was based around using the sachet, so I've got about 100 grams there for the 2.5 kilos. Oh, I forgot this was where I had the eggs, wasn't it? So the bowl was wet. Just fine, we can scrape it out. All right, these are probably hydrated enough now. We've got the onion, we've got the breadcrumbs, we've got the little bit of cream, all that sort of thing. Now, I feel like I'm forgetting something, but I'm gonna have to look at my notes to figure it out. But for the moment, let's just get this blended, those eggs, it's all combined, and then assess the texture of it. I'd say I'm definitely going to need some more breadcrumbs in there. I might go looking for my Parmesan cheese, and maybe I'll add some Parmesan cheese as a binder as well, because that's always tasty, cheesy French onion meatballs. Sounds good to me. So yeah, it's definitely a bit wet. I'm just gonna make sure it's all blended through. Now this mince will be a bit leaner than the mince that I would normally mince myself or use from the half cow, which is why I added that little bit of cream in as well. But we've got plenty of egg in there too, plenty of seasoning. So yeah, I think adding a bit of cheese might work well. So we might add, it's starting to come together a bit. If you agitate it a little bit, there's certain fibers in the meat that end up blending a bit better and they end up a bit sticky. So, and you get sort of a bouncy texture. You don't want to do it too much in a meatball, but you do it more for like dumpling fillings and things like that. So do I want to try? Yeah, I'm going to try, instead of another cup of breadcrumbs, I'm going to use a cup of parmesan, and then I think it'll be fine. And I'm just going to ball it up like I did last time, small balls onto baking trays, and we'll bake them in the oven, and I'll show them to you when they're done. All right, first lot of meatballs are in the oven. Second tray is waiting to go in. I actually cut up some potatoes into big chunks as well to put in a steamer pan that I'm going to then smash and roast to have with dinner. Blocks of broccoli hasn't been dealt with yet, so do that now. Just fill as many veggie containers as I can. The rest can go in whatever we need it to go in. And some will be eaten tonight as well. I was actually thinking that I might freeze some. Actually, I really liked the pasta and stuff that I did with the broccoli in it. So what I think I might do is fill these 4 containers. They were the easiest ones to find. Pull some out for dinner tonight, and then maybe just freeze only the soft spots. I won't freeze the stems because they're not going to cook up and puree up well into the into like a pasta dish, because the stems are more a stir fry thing. So what I use the stems for is I'll use this one tonight, but I take all the woody bits off the outside and then I julienne them into stir fry pieces like this. That's how I normally use them. So, and they're super tasty like that. But they are a little bit tougher, a little bit woodier, a little bit more dense. So they're not going to work quite as well in like as a pureed thing for a pasta sauce or anything. So I think that if I'm freezing them, I won't take up space with freezing those. I'll only freeze the heads. The animals will like those as a treat. If there ends up being extras, they always get these woody bits anyway. So yeah, so I'm just going to fill the 4 containers. Once these meatballs are done, I'll swap the trays over, and yeah, I'll bring you back. All right, that actually wasn't too bad. None of these lids fit real well, which is fine. There's slightly different shaped containers. Some of them clip them better than others, but all I do is I stack them, so it's not such a big deal. And you don't want broccoli sealed anyway. You want it to breathe in the fridge, so these containers do enough protection without stopping them from breathing. So, and there's paper towel in the bottom of each container as well. So that's not too bad. There was 4 containers. I need to find a couple more lids. Those 4 containers, I'm left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 heads of broccoli. So let's grab a Ziploc. Should probably grab one out of the freezer, but oh well. And what we want to do is we want to cut this up a little bit, because if we're going to be quick steaming it and pureeing it for a dish, then we want it fairly small. So let's see how much I can probably eat. I could probably cook 4 heads in one dinner meal easily that we would eat. So SD card ran out. So for the moment, I'm just cutting the stems off. I haven't decided what I'm doing with those yet. I could try julienning them and freezing them and see if they work in a stir fry. I've done a lot of storage of broccoli, blanching it as well as not blanching it and frozen. We just don't like it. Honestly, we just don't. It doesn't matter how I freeze it or what I do before I freeze it. Just do not like it cooked after it's been frozen. This is different. This is going to be pureed so you get the flavor of it and the color of it and things like that without what it doesn't matter about the texture. But yeah, as a like to use to steam or to fry off or whatever, I just do not like the texture of it. As I said, I tried blanching it, I tried not. I think part of the problem is that it just will not freeze fast enough in our freezer. And that's, from what I'm reading, the reason that store-bought frozen veg is so good is because of how quickly it is frozen. So it's something to do with the ice crystals. Don't get a chance to form inside the fruit or whatever it is. And therefore the product when you defrost it is better, and I don't have the option to blast freeze anything here. Our chest freezers are always pretty full, so it always takes a while. Like that bolognese isn't quite frozen solid yet, and it's 20 to 4, and I put that in like, at, I don't know, 10 o'clock this morning. So things take a while to freeze in our freezer. And I think that impacts the quality of the defrosted good, from what I can ascertain. And hey, some people aren't going to have a problem with it, but I don't like the texture of it. So we eat it in massive abundance while it's fresh. These veggie containers will keep it edible for 3-4 weeks sometimes, making sure that I've got them stored correctly in the fridge and things like that. And then we buy frozen stuff and we eat the frozen stuff, and it's fine. It's not as good as fresh, but is very edible compared to the stuff that we froze. So, it is what it is. It's one of those things when you shop every 6 to whatever weeks, you learn to deal with not having fresh fruit and veg. You have frozen, canned, whatever else. And of course you don't can broccoli either. So that's one big gallon bag, fairly loosely packed. And what I'll do is I'll go in the morning and I will open that bag and give it a shake, which is what I've done with the MILLMERRAN mix too. I went in there this morning and broke it all up a little bit, so it was mostly frozen but not frozen solid. Broke it all up a little bit so it'll be easy to use. I'll do the same thing with that, a bit like conditioning dehydrated goods. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 heads left. So how many did I say? I think I said I had 11, so I think 4 heads went in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 heads went in there. So yeah, I guess that's just what we'll do. We'll put these in the fridge. We can always find something to put these in. We'll eat some of it tonight, and yeah, we'll make it work. I also have all that broccolini. It's already in these containers. I might have steak tomorrow night with broccolini again tomorrow. I might do pork belly on Friday because it takes hours to cook, and I will be home Friday, unlike the next 2 days. So yeah, I was just sitting here snacking on these bits of broccoli while I was cutting them up, because raw broccoli is tasty, and thinking they would make a really nice little quick pickle. But unfortunately, nobody in my house reaches for pickles. I've got pickled beans in the fridge that have been there for months now, I reckon, and nobody goes to eat them. And I'm not a big snacker, so but I reckon they would make a really good quick pickle. They're almost like a cucumber texture, flavor, that freshness, or in a kimchi or something like that. If I happen to be, I don't have any daikon or anything like that, but there's so many uses for it that I hate not using them, but I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them. This is what the meatballs look like. We will, for science, have to break one open and make sure it's cooked perfectly inside. Good texture. I forgot to check if I missed anything out. and I didn't, but I do think I normally put a bit of Worcestershire or something in here. They could be just a slightly more seasoned, but they're perfectly good as they are, and we'll serve them with the smashed potatoes, broccoli. I think I put some beans in, using zucchini, that sort of thing, and gravy, so they'll be tasty. Right, so these have been steaming, and they should be, from the feel of them and the look of them, they should be fork tender. Now, I took all the meatballs off one of these trays, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to smash them on this tray that has all the juices left from the meatballs as well. So the plan is just to place them all out. Might do the cut side down on the end pieces so that we got crispy skin on top, and the middle pieces just, it is what it is. Oh, it's very hot. Some of these pieces are a lot larger than others, so they're going to be softer. We'll make it work. So, normally I do whole baby potatoes for this, but I didn't buy baby potatoes this month, so right. So then all I do is, normally I put a drizzle of oil on them, just a tiny drizzle. My spray bottle would be better, but it needs filling, and I don't have vegetable oil up here, so I'm just going to do that, which will be fine. And then we're going to squish, just like that. Oops, as I said, some are softer than others. All we're looking to do is create all the texture. It's not going to be neat. It's just going to be roughed up, which means that we get lots of crispy bits. Oh no, making a mess. And we might just end up mashing them all on this tray and making it a bit of a tray bake, because some of these have gotten so soft that they're just falling apart, and some don't want to squish at all. So, you know, we're going to get the same effect regardless. So we've got all this semi-cooked mashed potato. It's just not going to be as pretty. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this tray. We got time to cook it because it's only 4:15 at the moment. So let's just squish it all, scrape it all. And then I'm going to put it in the oven for a bit. Then I might pull it out and put some dollops of butter. Maybe some Parmesan cheese or grated cheese or whatever. Messy potato bake, sort of. I don't know. It didn't really turn out how I planned, but I don't really care. It's still going to taste good. And I'm over it. So what we have is a tray full of smashed potato, lots of little craggy bits that are going to catch bits of heat and go crunchy. Something a little bit different to mashed potato. I'm going to grab some flake salt, and I'm going to refill my spray bottle as well so that I can give it a good sprinkling of oil. Man, my brain's not working at the moment, is it? So I'm going to spritz this with oil, get it in the oven as well. Alrighty, so I decided to bake the broccoli as well because I already had sheet pans out. So I just put a bit of oil and salt on it and baked it. I've just put a few knobs of ghee in here just to melt through it, and it's done al dente like we like it, with a few little crispy bits. So that's all sorted. And then I left Sonnet in charge of the cheese, so she went a little overboard. I should have expected that, but anyway, cheesy, crispy potato bake type thing. So it's all done as well. And then all the meatballs as well. So now I'm just going to make some gravy up. And then that will do. I was going to do some zucchini and stuff as well, but we've got plenty of what we've got, and I wanted to use up that broccoli, so I'm just going to make some gravy, the Maggi rich gravy like we prefer. I use water and gravy powder in the pot and whisk it until it all comes together. All right, it's Friday morning, so Mum has just helped me to get all the flesh out of a box of the avocados, and I haven't done it before, but I'm going to turn it into a little bit of a pesto that can be frozen. We did freeze whole chunks of avocado that we used in smoothies, and that was fine, and we did freeze some just as like a guacamole, but the thing is that we always forgot to pull it out of the freezer long enough before the meal to use it. So this way, if I do it into sort of a pesto, I should be able to freeze it in bricks and put those bricks straight into like warmed cream to make pasta sauce and things like that. So we're going to wing it. I've got some roasted cashews that I'm going to put, say, 150 in, and we'll do 2 bowls. Now, the kitchen's been rearranged a little bit at the moment. I haven't shared it yet because it's not finished, but I've got no power to this bench at the moment. So I'm using scales here, and then I'm just going to take the Thermomixes over to the base to do it. So I've got 150 grams of nuts, and I might grind these up first, break them up a little bit, and then I'm going to add the spinach and some lemon juice and some olive oil. I don't know what I've got in the way of parmesan or anything at the moment. I'll have to have a look. Might have to use nutritional yeast if I don't have any parmesan, and get that blended, and then we'll start trying to put the avocado through it as well. So 15 seconds on speed 8, and we've got this fine cashew meal. I don't want to take it to a butter, and because it's roasted salted cashews, this is probably as fine as I'd get it unless I'm taking it to a butter, and that's fine. A little bit of texture in this is not an issue. So then, spinach wise, normally I have to do it in 2 different batches because you have to break it down and then add more bulk. So this is 350 grams, so we've got 175 grams per jug. So let's see. All right, so that's about 175. So we'll see. I'll have to grind it up a little bit and then push it down probably. I'll put 20 odd of lemon juice and 20 odd of olive oil as well to give it some liquid to help blend, and then we'll see what it does. All right, so we've got a puree there of the spinach and stuff, which will work. And now this will counteract the fact that if any of the avocado goes a bit brown too, we'll have this green here. I also have a couple of cloves of the elephant garlic for each batch. So I should have put that through when I did the nuts probably, but a couple of cloves in there. So then let's see what the weight is on the quantity of avocado. So let's start off with, that's 1 kilo, which I reckon is about 1/3 of what's there. And we will see what this puree is down to. All right, so this is what it looks like at the moment. It is predominantly avocado, obviously. It needs, definitely needs some more lemon juice, and we're going to add some salt. I might add some black pepper too. And then I'm gonna scrape it down and reblend it, reassess. I'm wondering if it could do with a bit of garlic powder as well. Some of this could even be blended with some cream cheese as like a dip, I reckon. So let's blend it back, see what it does. All right, so we've tasted it. Texture's good, the consistency, color, and everything's right, but it's just not quite right. So I'm gonna add some garlic powder. I'm just gonna add a sprinkle of it. I don't think it needs much. I just think it needs a little bit more push of the raw garlic. Has such a different flavor to powdered garlic, so I think that will help. I think it needs another squirt of lemon juice, And I think I'm going to put a dash of maple syrup in it. I think it just needs that, needs some sweet undertones to counteract that spinach and avocado earthy flavour. I think that should work. We'll give it a blend and we'll try it again, and then we'll assess, and then I'll never be able to replicate it with the other bowl, but you know. It's still not quite right. I think it's just, I was just saying, I think it's just too one note. There's not enough complexity of flavour. So what I've done is I've opened one of my homemade Worcestershire sauces, and we're going to try it on that. It's not going to hurt it anyway. Like, Worcestershire sauce is tasty. So we'll put like a tablespoon of that in there, and we'll blend it up and see. My other thought was adding some of the caramelised onion jam. Might have been, I don't know if that and the Worcestershire would be too much though. But if this doesn't quite hit the right notes, maybe I'll try onion jam in the other one. All right, the Worcestershire sauce definitely gave it more depth, more extensive flavours, but I just had a thought too, and I've got the homemade miso. I'm going to put a dollop of that in there. The other thing is that I didn't add any cheese to it. And now I don't have proper Parmesan, but I do have the dehydrated stuff, and I'm just going to put a sprinkle in. That is my idea of a sprinkle. And I think that, because with the Worcestershire sauce it was very edible, it still wasn't quite amazing, but maybe this will step it up. All right, that is pretty perfect. So now I'm going to try and replicate that. And perhaps, because this is the level of the jug that it's ended up with, I may end up adding, no, I might just dice up the leftover avocado, and we'll freeze that to use in smoothie pops and stuff like that. So I'll use 1 kilo per jug, and then whatever's left I'll just dice up and freeze for in smoothie pops and things like that, because it's really good at thickening that sort of stuff. All right, we got 2 jugs of almost the same stuff, close enough. And then this is so I ended up putting 1.5 kilos of avocado in each of the jugs, and this is what I'm left with. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to, get my butter knife so I don't cut the paper, is just rough chop this up and spread it out, and I'll flash freeze it and then move it into Ziploc bags. And we can use this in smoothies or banana avocado ice cream or whatever. I don't think I've got any frozen avocado left, so this will be, gives me the option of some. When you're making smoothies, this adds a real thickness to the liquid, which makes for nice smoothies that don't ice up too much. So you don't taste it, but it adds a real lot of good texture. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm just going to sprinkle it with a little bit of lemon juice to help it stay green until it freezes. And then I'm just going to throw that straight in the freezer. Once it's semi-solid, I should be able to break it apart a little bit more, mix it up on the tray, condition it a little bit, and then once it's fully frozen, be able to stick it in a Ziploc bag, and it should stay somewhat separated. All right, we got the frozen mirepoix from the other day in these ones. So we're going to empty this out. This will actually be a good thing to follow through this, because there will be a little bit of an onion scent, garlic onion scent in these, which isn't going to impact this. Whereas some other things that I put in here possibly wouldn't be great to follow through with. So I'm just going to pop the cubes out, stack them in Ziploc bags. Nice and neat so that they go in the freezer and take up less room. And then we're going to fill these with the avocado mix. I got the 4 here. I do have more somewhere, I'm not real sure where, but this is 1 cup, which would be good for like pasta sauces and stuff. But I think I might like some smaller sizes for other uses as well. So I'm gonna have a look. All right, so we got 12, 13, 1 cup cubes. out of that to go in the freezer. And then there's not quite a 1 cup amount, I think, left in the bottom of this, and a little bit left in the other one that I'll scrape out as well, that I'm going to try turning into a dip. And so that's that. There is another half box of avocados, but I might just leave them and we'll eat them fresh as we can, because the kids like to just eat the avocados straight, and I like them with eggs and all that sort of stuff. So we've preserved enough of them that I'm comfortable that if some of those go to waste, then that's fine. So I'm going to get these in the freezer to freeze up. All right, so we've got all the leftover stuff in there. I'm going to put some cream cheese, probably half the block, maybe, cream cheese, and then I'll use the other half for something else. And found a 1/4 cup, so let's try a 1/4 cup sour cream. And then I also have some onion jam here that I'm just going to put a spoonful in, and then we're going to blend it and we'll just see what happens. Same as everything else, except this had the mirror on it, so I need to wash it. All right, so I added the same again onion jam as I did when I showed it to you. So another big scoop of onion jam, and it's very, very tasty. It's a little thin at the moment, but with the cream cheese and stuff in it, I'm going to stick it in the fridge, and I reckon it'll firm up to a really good texture without being too firm. So, because it's got that lemon juice and stuff in there as well, and the olive oil and all that. So I'm going to put this in the fridge, and then we'll eat it over the next couple of days. Darryl can have some of this one too. I don't know what with, because he's not eating crackers, but he'll figure something out. And that was a good use of the leftover pesto that was in the jug, because I always like to try and do something with the bits that are left over. So I'm going to put that in the fridge. I've got half a cream cheese block, so I might have to do like apple scrolls or something so I can put cream cheese icing on them, but it'll be fine for a day or two back in the fridge. And that's it for the avocados. Alrighty, so it's now 3:30. All the avocado has been done. I did bread throughout all of that, but I've stuck it in the fridge to bake tomorrow, just loaves of bread. I was going to do a brownie or something, but I'm not going to, because we're having pork belly for dinner, and the pork belly is in the oven and will be for the next few hours. So I will pull it out in a minute. It's been in there for half an hour at top temperature to crisp up. Now I'm going to pull it out, put some potatoes under each of the pieces, and then turn the temperature down, and it will cook now for another 2 hours at least. It's 3:30, so to 5:30ish, which means that yes, the oven is in use. So the other thing I was supposed to get done today was tomatoes, and obviously I didn't, because it took just a long time to get the avocados done, but also because in the process of fixing stuff here in the kitchen, Darryl pulled one of the shade cloths down, and it's quite unbearable at this bench for part of the day at the moment. So I'm going to have to get him to put that back up tomorrow when he's home. So tomorrow I will do tomatoes, and I think the plan is just to roast them all and potentially just can them as roasted tomatoes, because I just don't have anything in particular that I want to do with them, but they need to be used. They were just really cheap and it was worth buying, and we've eaten them fresh, and I'll keep some for fresh eating, and we'll see how we go. But for the moment, potatoes are going to go under the pork belly. So you're going to pull that out. Yeah, so let me grab some of the pork belly out. So what I do is I pat it dry, oil it, and put some salt on it, and then we put it in the pan and score it. Then we put it in the pan for at top temperature for about half an hour. And then the goal, I didn't cut that one in half. The goal is to get it on potatoes so that or potatoes around it if need be. We want to lift certain parts up. So this part here, see how it's crisped up there, but it hasn't crisped up on the other side, and that is because one side is sitting lower than the other. So the goal is to even it up a little bit and scatter some potatoes into this pork fat, which will give us lovely, crispy, tasty baked potatoes. So we scatter half the potatoes in this one, half the potatoes in the other one. I cut them into these squares because I probably put them on a bit later than I should have. So I just want to make sure they cook. So yeah, so there we go. We've got that one. The other tray will be much the same. Same concept. We'll cook some broccoli and stuff up as well. Goodness, I'm having trouble getting it to sit even today for some reason. There we go. So yeah, toss this back in and another 2 hours. All right, so it is Saturday, and I took some footage this morning, which I'll show you now, of Kavik and I cutting up all the tomatoes. So we cut up all the tomatoes for roasting purposes, cored them, cut up some onion, some garlic, and all the tomatoes, put them in cast iron trays to roast. So I'll share that bit of footage with you there. And then throughout the day, I also baked some bread. I cut up the bread from yesterday, which was just the garlic standard loaf. And then I also did just a garlic focaccia type thing as well today to use with dinner, because all the roasted tomatoes we're going to turn into soup. So this is what the roasted tomatoes look like afterwards. We want some color on some of them, things like that. You can sit there and peel the skins off it if you want for texture purposes for the soup, but with the Thermomix I don't really need to. So all I'm going to do is I've got 3 trays of these. I'm going to puree them really, really, really fine and then stick them in a pot to cook the air out of them and add the flavours that I need to make it into soup. It is already 4:45, so we're just going to get it done for dinner and then figure out what I need to flavour it with to make it work. I do have almost a whole box of tomatoes left, which I might have to do the same thing tomorrow, but I can just can them like this straight in jars if need be. So I'll see what I want to do. But for the moment, I'm just going to scrape all these into the Thermomix with the roasted onion and garlic as well. And we're going to puree it up really nice and smooth. We've done a lot of work on the kitchen today. Darryl has done a lot of rearranging and stuff for me. It's still a work in progress, but that's where most of our time is spent currently, is trying to get that worked out. So I haven't been filming much because I've been doing just all this in between. So let's puree this one. This is what it looks like after 30 seconds, and I go from speed 4 all the way up to speed 10. This lovely thick mass. Leaving the skins on does help to keep it thick too. I find you have to have something high powered enough to break them down. My immersion blender doesn't, but the Thermomix is fine. You still might get the occasional little bit, but not too bad. I did get reminded too that Sonnet has been busy crocheting all her little critters lately, and she made me a pig. So she wanted me to show you the piggy off. So I need to photograph some of the other stuff that she's been making. So that was one tray. I'm going to pour this into a pot, do the other 2 trays, same process. Alrighty, so this is what the soup's ended up with. I'm serving everyone with a dollop of sour cream except for Darryl, because he's not having soup, he's having steak because he doesn't tolerate tomato this time of night. And he's not eating bread, so it's not as enjoyable for him. So yeah, so everyone's getting a dollop of the sour cream, sprinkle of cheese, bit of bread to melt through. This is that sharp cheddar from Costco, and then this is what the focaccia ended up looking like. So yeah, just a bit of butter, bread, soup, that's dinner tonight. It is Sunday. There is a fly buzzing around my head and driving me nuts. I'd like to do some baking, I think. I've got half a block of cream cheese sitting in the fridge that I used half a block for something else. And those apple scrolls with the cream cheese icing were really, really good. I am trying to get a sourdough starter going again. I don't know how I'm going to go in this weather, but I do have my proofing box. I don't have power to it consistently at the moment though, so I'm gonna try anyway, but because of that I have some discard or some not quite doubled sourdough starter that I need to use in some dough anyway. I do have a bunch of chicken to get through as well. I have left it in the fridge instead of freezing it, which means I now need to cook it before freezing it. It's just too close to the use by date, and it's not worth putting in the freezer because then you have to pull it out to defrost, and you've got that time delay on it. So if it's already close to date, it's better off being cooked and then put away. So I have about 8 kilos left of chicken thighs that just got put right down the bottom in the very coldest part of the chest fridge, and I forgot that we've had them there. So we need to do those. I have 2 pork roasts, but the dates on those aren't until the 24th, and it's only the 14th today. I was going to start the smoker up with some today, but I'm not going to if I'm going to do that chicken. So first up, I've got bacon cooking. I have a focaccia from yesterday, leftover focaccia. I'm going to slice this a little bit like Turkish bread into a big slab and make up some BLT type stuff and share that. I don't think I've got the bread on camera, mind you. So I'm going to slice it horizontally like I do the Turkish bread and make this up into like a big BLT thing, and the boys can have some, mum can have some, I'll have some as my breakfast / brunch for this morning. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. I've got bacon cooking, I'm going to get some tomatoes and all sorts of things out. All right, so I've got 4 of these trays of chicken. They're all about 2 kilos each. I'm going to do a tray in satay marinade, and then I will cook them up as satay chicken, and I can use these in, we might have rice paper rolls in the next few days or something along those lines. I'm just going to cut the thighs in half, chunks in half like that, and marinate them and just check for any little bits of gristle, because these regularly have just little tiny bits of gristle in them. So by cutting them in half, I'm just feeling them over as well. So I'm just going to cut them all in half. I've got a couple of Ziploc bags. I'm just going to use those for the marinating. I'm going to just get it all cut up, stuck in the bag, and then I'll add the marinated ingredients. I'll bring you back. The marinade for the chicken is some red curry paste, a little bit of white sugar, and some curry powder, and a bit of salt. So for this quantity of chicken, I'm going to use probably half this in the marinade and the other half in the actual sauce. So I put some in there. Sugar, we're just going to use like, I don't know, half a tablespoon of sugar, and then probably 2 of the curry powder. This is the Baba's meat curry, the Malaysian curry. It's pretty pretty spicy. Not excessive, but pretty spicy. And the red curry is as well because it's the maizery stuff. And then I'm just going to put a sprinkle of salt in. So we've got all that in the bottom of the bag, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to throw all this in. I'm just going to blend that powder with the wet. Like that. And then I'm just going to throw all this into the bag, and I'm going to work it through from the outside of the bag. And then I'm going to throw this in the fridge for the moment. And this one will probably be for food tomorrow, so it'll probably stay in the marinade in the fridge overnight, and then I'll do more with it tomorrow. Alright, so that one's done. I'm going to just put that in the fridge, in the bottom of the fridge for the moment, or Kavik's going to for me. This one we're going to do in the lemon chicken, so I'm just going to put a bit of potato starch on it and fry it up. So I just like it in strips for this one, and then we will serve this one for dinner tonight over rice and broccoli with the lemon chung. So just doing the same thing and getting any gristle, and then just slicing it all into strips. And then we will marinate this one until I'm ready to cook it in a couple of hours, while I do the other two with something with them as well. So all of this is cut into strips. So we're going to, we've got what, 2 kilos there. So I think this is a half tablespoon. I'll do 3 heaped spoonfuls of the garlic ginger paste, which I am going to decant into jars probably later this week. And then some soy sauce in there as well. And we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to put all the strips of chicken in the bag and then
shake it,
massage it in, yeah, from outside the bag, and get it all coated. And then this can go in the fridge for an hour and a half or so until I start dinner. And then I just have to decide what I'm doing with the other 2 bags. All right, so another packet. Now, I think I'm going to do a miso marinade on this, and I think I'm going to leave them whole because I'll probably end up freezing it. So I'll marinate them in the miso whole for today. It's 2 o'clock, so cook it tomorrow morning. Should be fine. Shouldn't get too soft in that period of time. And then freeze them once cooked, and that'd be better that it's whole because when you defrost it, it will stay more moist. I do want to do some of that zucchini caramelized onion pasta again, and I think that this flavor would be nice as the chicken with it. We do have frozen chicken as well. Like, we do have some thighs frozen and things like that, so that'll be good for making meals where I want to use chicken as the meal rather than the chicken as an add-on. But for the moment, I just want to get through these, and I was too slack this week, and as I said, the dates are short, so I'm going to cook them before freezing them because I don't want to risk freezing it raw and then having that timeline for it to defrost. So we'll do a miso marinade. I'm just going to get them all out. I'm going to check that they don't have any gristle or anything. I don't know if I want to do both in it or not. Let me have a think. I'll pull them out. I'll pull this first one out, get it in a bag, and then we'll go from there. All right, so miso one, we're going to put some ginger garlic in as well. Let's go... we'll go 4 of those. And then we're going to go some miso. So I've got my homemade red miso here. I'm going to put that amount in because we're just guessing here. And then we've got 2 kilos of chicken, remember. So some miso. We're going to put some rice vinegar in there. About, let's say, about 6 tablespoons for that 2 kilos. 6, yes, 6 tablespoons. We've got some soy sauce, which we're going to do very similar sort of amount. Alright, then I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil to help blend it through, and something sweet. So let's go with a little bit of maple. Can you grab me the maple syrup out of the fridge, please? A lot of these would use honey, but I don't like the way honey burns so easily, so I prefer maple because it doesn't burn as easily. And I'm just going to put like 3 glugs, maybe 3 tablespoons, I don't know, of maple in there just to add some sweetness, but also to thin that out. So there we go, we've got this lovely miso marinade, and we've got our 2 kilos of chicken. And we will pour that in. Grab a spatula so we get it all like that. And then again, you zip the bag up and you let most of the air out. Then you can massage and manipulate all the marinade over the chicken. So there we go, we've got miso marinated chicken. Now the other one, I'm just going to do my normal thing that I do, which is a bunch of different things just thrown in together. So we use cowboy candy, a good dollop amount, a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and then we have some garlic powder, and we have some paprika, like that, and then we just do the same thing. You're going to zip the bag up and get it really nicely massaged all the way through. Sometimes with a powdered base marinade, like with lots of powder in it, I might need to stick my hand in the bag as well to get it well coated, but for the moment, just going to see if I can get it to like that. And there we go. So that one is just the smoky cowboy candy one. This is the miso one. And these are both going to go in the fridge for the moment. These two I will cook off, these two and probably the satay I will cook off tomorrow, probably first thing in the morning. Now I was going to do some bread and stuff today and I didn't get to it. And it's now 3 o'clock. It's a bit late by the time I proofed it and shaped it and baked it and all the rest of it. So I'll probably come out here really nice and early tomorrow, get an early night tonight. I had a late night last night and I got up a bit late, and then with everyone at church, made breakfast and brunch and had it with mum, and so anyway, I'm going to put this other half in a container in the fridge because we will use this for the peanuts, the satay sauce for the satay chicken. And yeah, I'm just going to tidy up and I'll come back and we'll do the lemon chicken. Other than that, I don't think I have anything super urgent. I do have most of a box of tomatoes, half a box of mushrooms, and half a box of avocado left as well. So while this is cooking off tomorrow, because it's going to take a while to cook off, though I did think, I wonder if I could throw it all in the smoker, like a layer of each chicken in the smoker. I might have a bit of research about chicken thighs in the smoker. The other 2 bags that I cut up, like the satay that I cut into strips, less so. and I don't know that you'd want smoke on those either, but the smoky paprika-y one and the miso the smoke would complement them, and they'd be really nice and moist. So I'm going to have a think about that. But anyway, I'll be back. Forgotten the kids had asked for banana bread, so before I start dinner and while I'm still cleaning up out here, we'll do banana bread. Now, I've said it before, I'm sure, but no power to this table at the moment, so all my Thermomixes are over on a side bench until we get that sorted. So I'm just using my bowl and scales over here to get all the ingredients in, and then I go and blend it. I find that the easiest way. My banana bread is really, really simple. I used to have to make it gluten-free, so back when I was using gluten-free flours and stuff, this is what I started using, and then once I could use flour, I started using it with flour, and it works well, so I've kept it up. So these bananas they're not actually overly ripe, like they're ripe, but they're not squishy as much as the outsides look a little bit. They probably could have gone a little bit longer, but that's fine. Just not going to be as sweet. So we want 3 to 4 ripe bananas, but these bananas are tiny, so I'm actually going to do 5 of these little tiny bananas. All right. Yeah, so there is a short, I'm pretty sure, that has this on there. So I want about 1/3 of a cup of olive oil, which is going to be about 75 grams. We're going to wing this one because I don't know where my measuring cups are. So we're going to go about 75 grams of olive oil. We want sugar, which we're going to go about these bananas aren't very sweet. My notes here say a cup of sugar, which seems excessive. I don't think this is the recipe I normally use, because I wouldn't normally use a cup of sugar. So we're going to go 125 grams, which is about half a cup. Should be fine. And we're going to add a little bit of molasses to that. I could go and find the short myself, mind you. A little bit of molasses to give it brown sugar. We're going to add chocolate chips to this, so the sweetness is really not that big a deal. And then we want some bicarb and baking powder. I use a teaspoon of each. And then we're going to add our eggs to this, and we're going to blend this, and then we will add the dry goods. So super simple. All right, we're going to do 2 large eggs. This is pretty sort of a purpley toned one. We got a darker brown one, pinky ones, nice ones at the moment. I need a bowl. Now, we always crack our eggs into a bowl before putting it into ingredients so that we don't risk a bad egg into the ingredients. We're going to do about 225 plain flour. Now I'm just going to give that a quick blend, then we're going to add our chocolate chips, and that's 1 batch done. Just going to add a couple of handfuls of chocolate chips and fold them through. And there we go. Now grab a tin, put in the tin, and repeat the process. All right, I'm frying the chicken off. This is just potato starch that it's in, and when it is done, it looks just like this. The other thing I did was the banana breads, so I'm going to cut some slices up so that the kids can have some, but I'm going to send some warm up to Mum for dessert as well. Send her a few slices and she can have some tomorrow as well for morning tea. So this is the lovely moist banana bread, chocolate chip banana bread. So that's it for today. Don't put the lid on it because it'll go, just like put the lid over it but not done up so that she can take it off once it's up there because it's too hot. That's it for today, I think. So I have all that chicken to do tomorrow, but this might be the end of this particular video. And then we start fresh tomorrow. So if so, this is, I'll see you on the next one. Otherwise, yeah, we'll see you tomorrow.